The Ripple versus the SEC couldn't be clear at this point, as we already reported. However, the SEC is getting uncovered considerably more. How did they respond, and what consequences will that have for the SEC? Welcome viewers to XRP Crypto. Here we bring you the latest updates on cryptocurrencies. Please hit the subscription button, like my video and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next update. According to a response recorded by the Securities and Exchange Commission, Brad Garlinghouse's request to require Matthew Estabrook to surrender notes taken by him has been denied. According to the Estabrook notes, which were written down in 2018, the conversation between former the SEC Commissioner permitted Royce Mendon Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse was the topic of the Estabrook notes, albeit the offended party has presented the notes to judging that burn for in-camera assessment. The respondents have been ordered to turn them over to the offended party because the notes are the same as the SEC notes that this court has already held are protected by the DPP. According to the court's ruling. According to the SEC, the notes should continue to be protected by the DPP because Mr. Estabrook took the notes because he felt they might be relevant to future commission decisions, which the SEC thinks to be right. Therefore, the notes should continue to be protected. Exactly the same thing occurred in a previous encounter with Hester Pierce, and the court concluded that the exchange was protected by the privilege of discourse. Garlinghouse's need for the notes has been significantly reduced as a consequence of his presence at the gathering. According to the SEC, thus breaking the SEC privilege would be unnecessary. By the way, did you are familiar this news? Let us know in the comments section down underneath. Ripple looked for the Estabrook notes earlier this month, arguing that they were not protected by the DPP's legitimate protections and that they ought to be turned up. Notes taken by the SEC staff in the context of fact-gathering with third parties don't fall inside the scope of the DPP. Indeed, even toward the end, country gathered may later be relied on for future policy making, said Ripple in its movement to compel. Likewise with the other notes this court ordered the SEC to produce, there is no evidence that any Estabrook takes note of certain facts were recorded while others were purposely overlooked as an exercise of judgment or deliberation, or that such a decision was settled on to help with agency decision making. For the avoidance of uncertainty, the SEC expressed position that the Estabrook notes were taken for the purpose of exhorting the Commission on Policy is precisely the very justification that the SEC utilized for keeping notes from previous meetings, and that the court has already rejected. Because the SEC relies on information it gets while settling on policy choices, the SEC asserts that not all of the information the SEC learned is privileged. According to the SEC litigant, Garlinghouse requests that this court order the Securities and Exchange Commission to produce the Estabrook notes, or alternatively, that this court order that the SEC provide the document to the court for in-camera inspection. According to his appeal. Comment XRP Army: in the event that you accept, it's solid for Ripple. The fight in court between the Securities and Exchange Commission and Ripple continues as the court prepares to rule on the Estabrook notes. In response to the incident, attorneys Jeremy Hogan and John Deacon shared their perspectives. I don't think the appointed authority orders these notes be produced. The SEC works effectively of spreading out its argument in the first part, and I think the second and third arguments are particularly compelling on the off chance that the SEC successes this movement. Remember, it's a little fight in this case, said Mr. Hogan. Jeremy is spot on. As expected, Brad Garlinghouse was at this gathering. He knows about information exchanged in disdain. Judge Annette Byrne already ruled Ripple couldn't have the notes from other gatherings. Garlinghouse RSBI were present for. Deaton commented, as a result the Securities and Exchange Commission is under greater pressure following the recording of a claim against the Securities and Exchange Commission last year. Empower oversight informants and researchers that the SEC comply with the Freedom of Information Act. A charge of a possible conflict of interest in the agency's cryptocurrency-related enforcement activities was the force for documenting the claim. Do you imagine that the SEC ought to be rebuffed for their ridiculous claims and actions in the event that indeed? Try to like this video. The latest update has resulted in the two agencies being featured in public media as a result of this prosecution. The SEC introductory papers, which were revealed on February 25th, were acquired under the Freedom of Information Act. The SEC disclosed these communications to strengthen oversight in the crypto conflict suit. To now retired senior the SEC officials Simpson, Thatcher and Bartlett were included in the aforementioned records because their correspondence between them was included in the records. Inside the examination were 1,053 pages of email including former the SEC Director William Hinman and 46 pages of email including former the SEC Acting Director Mark Berger, both of whom were former the SEC Division of Corporation Finance directors at the hour of the supposed misconduct. Unfortunately, numerous of those pages were virtually completely clear and had duplicate information as a consequence of formatting issues on the page design. In spite of this, the action taken by the SEC